Alright, so want to make a quick Bitcoin update today. I didn't make a video yesterday because I was busy, and I only took one trade yesterday, right before the FOMC volatility, which I'll go over that a little later, but to kind of recap what has happened since my last video. In my last video, we were up around here. I'd just taken this short trade, and basically I was looking at this local structure that we had going on in this range, where we had a break of the bearish structure there. We kind of started an uptrend, and let me draw that in better. We got to this high, this low, this high, this low, and then I was kind of saying that you could count this as structure if you want to count that as a higher low. Then we had a bearish break right here, but on some of the higher time frames it looked better to just count this as the structure. So ignore that as a lower high because it was just kind of so close, and just look at this as being the lower high. And if that was the case, then we didn't get the break of structure until right here, and the structure would then look like this. So we had at the time just seemingly put in a lower high, unless we took out this high up here, which we did not. We just got to move down and put in a lower low. So we continued this structure, and now we have this lower high and another lower low. So right now the market structure point is this high. And right now we are at the lows of what I consider to be a very crucial range, meaning whichever way we exit this range, I think will have a big impact on the price action over the next few weeks, maybe months. Because I think right now the last hope for us to kind of reclaim this range and potentially continue trading to higher prices would be if we had this kind of scenario going on, where once we exited this range to the downside, we started trading in a smaller range, and sometimes that can lead to an aggressive move back up through the previous range. And I really don't think that is the likely scenario. It seems like things are leaning more bearish now. Just looking at market Cipher. But it is possible that, maybe we just got to move down towards the lows of this local range. And, I think there is still hope that we can break out of this to the upside and maybe try to reclaim this previous range. But, right now we are kind of consolidating around the lows of the range. I mean, there's really only this wick right here. There's not much in terms of support in this area until we get, a little bit lower, probably down to like these highs. So I would be very interested to see what happens over the next day or so. If we can kind of get back into this little mini range, then maybe I'll start to have a little bit more hope of us continuing to get a move to the upside. But, if we kind of come up here and start rejecting from the lows of this range, then, I think there's a good chance we might see a break to the downside. And quickly looking at market Cipher, you can see the 1 hour money flow is getting a move to the downside, continuing to put in lower lows. We just got this red dot on the only momentum wave we've seen above the zero line since these highs, since this wave crossed to the downside. Kind of printing a little trigger wave here as money flow is continuing to put in lower lows. If you look at some of the midterm time frames, they're looking a bit iffy. This money flow is kind of chopping around. It went from green to red to green. This VWAP is not looking convincing the way it's turning to the outside. That's kind of showing weakness. So maybe if it does cross over and we print a green dot here, maybe it just kind of ends up flopping over later and we continue to the downside. And the 12-minute kind of backs that up because we just got to this move into the green with the money flow. Now it's turning back to the downside. This VWAP's not looking super strong, but I mean, that can go either way really. And looking at some of the higher term time frames, the 4 hour money flows in the red. This VWAP doesn't look super convincing either. It looks like we could easily kind of get a turn to the downside here, print another red dot. It's not super clear, but it's not looking very strong right now. The 6 hour is looking decent. I mean, we haven't printed that green dot yet. And overall, I mean, the higher time frames are kind of looking a little iffy. I mean, daily money flows continuing to put in lower lows in the red, so that's not looking very good. The 12 hour is a little uncertain, I'd say. The VWAP's starting to curve back to the upside, but the money flow is starting to turn back to the downside. So all in all, I'd say it's not Looking super optimistic for this being a significant low, at least in my opinion. We did get local divergences as we put in this low, but it was as the money flow was continuing to put in lower lows. Yeah, and we didn't get a 4-hour div. So yeah, I mean, this could potentially be like a local low, and maybe price looks to come up to break this downtrend, maybe get back into this range, but the higher time frames are now looking super optimistic. So now let's talk about some of my levels. So I have some resistance areas marked out right here, and the reason I would potentially be interested in these is because we could get a move to backtest the value area low, the lows of this range pretty much, kind of excluding this down here. And yeah, look to backtest that and hold it as resistance. Maybe we even come up above it a little bit and then fall back outside of it. So yeah, that's really the only reason I have these areas marked out, is for the potential scenario of us backtesting this before getting a further move to the downside. And I think if we can get above these levels and get above the point of control of this local range, then I really wouldn't be interested in much until we get up towards the highs of this range. And some of the specific levels I'm looking at, we have this area of single prints that we started to fill. We peeked into it twice. And inside of it, we have what I would call a 5-minute breaker block. Now, what this is essentially just we had a 5-minute order block right here that we did not respect. We just fell straight through it. And this isn't like a clean order block either, because we don't have a blue candle to the left, but since it marked a significant low, I'm pretty much counting it anyway, because you can either look at it as being an order block, or you can just look at the wick. So some people might just look at this wick and say, okay, since we didn't respect the wick to the downside, we just fell straight through it. This could be reactive on the way back to the upside, but I decided to mark out that 5-minute candle just because it kind of gives me a zone here. And yeah, so some people would call this a breaker block, some people call it other things, but I like this area because it is inside of some single prints, and we do have these wicks, so maybe if we get a fast wick up to here, we could SFP that. And this is the significant market structure point I was looking at, because on Bybit we did not break this high yet. We didn't CDW it. We actually got like a perfect double top to it. So yeah, I'm still looking at this level as the market structure point. So I would be interested to see if we CDW that into this area, and that would also fill a lot of the single prints too. A lot of times, we won't fill all the single prints. We'll kind of like fill most of them and then reject and then look to fill the rest later. I've seen that happen quite a few times. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking at there. And above it, we have a 4-hour order block that I marked out. This is a clean looking order block. We got purple, blue, purple, and then we came down to break structure. And this is sitting right at the value area low of this range. I also have this tiny 5-minute order block marked out inside of it, just in case it ends up respecting that. If we see a quick move into here, quick reaction back outside the value area low, yeah, I pretty much have that marked out just in case of that scenario. But we do also have a daily level and the weekly open up here. We have another daily level above that, all inside of this order block. So I'd potentially be looking at this area as resistance as well. And, even if we come up to this daily or even this higher daily one, but then we start to lose the value area low, I would still kind of consider that a back test of the lows of the range and then a rejection. So that is what I'd be looking at there. And yeah, again, after that, if we can get above the point of control, then I would be looking at, around the highs of the range. And we do have an untapped daily up here. It's not exactly at the highs of the range, but it's, close enough to where we might be able to get a solid rejection there. Maybe it'll go back to the point of control. There's an NDPOC up at like 27,330. There's a daily level right above it, and the value area high is also right around there, so that's a decent level of confluence. And after that, I would be looking at all of these highs. And yeah, in terms of resistance, that's pretty much all I'm looking at inside this range. And for support, I mean, we don't have much. I mean, I'd be looking at maybe this low and maybe this low. But if we continue to get moves down towards this low, I mean, it would look a little frightening considering there's not much support below that, until we get down to like this area, which is like a almost 3% move. So yeah, maybe we SFP these lows, but I would have to see something that gives me a lot of confidence in them. And if I am going to take a long, it would be some kind of local scalp inside of here. And I'll actually go over the trade that I took yesterday and the trade that I took today, and then what else I'm looking for in this local range. So yeah, really the only trade I took yesterday was this back test right here. After we put in this low, we kind of SFP'd this local low. We got some divergences on the low. You can see the momentum wave got a significant move to the upside. Money flow wasn't really diverging. It might have been on some other time frames. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't looking super good. We can check the low time frames, though. Nah, we really didn't see any money flow divergences. But since we got a significant move back to the upside, right here, we got an aggressive move to the upside, I decided to look for a little scalp from this retracement, and we got to move right into the golden pocket with the momentum continuing to increase, kind of following that upward trend. Not perfectly, but it was putting in a higher low. And we did also see some absorption on this low. So as we made that higher low, the CVD put in a slightly lower low with the open interest increasing slightly as well. So yeah, that was pretty much my only long yesterday. Took that right before the FOMC meeting. Yeah, my coinalyze times are off, but that was right around noon time. And yeah, the only other trade I was in at the time was the short I went over in my video previously. And yeah, that long ended up playing out nicely. I locked in a good profit from this. I moved my stop loss up above this last higher low, just in case we continued that uptrend, but I took a lot of profits out around these highs. And from there, I did not take another trade until right here. We got a golden pocket retest after falling back inside the value area high. As we got that golden pocket retest, we yet again saw some absorption. The CVD putting in a higher high, and the open interest increasing as price put in that lower high. And I now have a pretty decent profit secured with this one as well. Took some profits out at the value area low, took some profits out around the lows of this little range, and now my next target is going to be the golden pocket. We could potentially see some divergences as we get a move down there, and we might SFP this low. And yeah, I think that is pretty much all I wanted to go over in this one. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Really appreciate the support of my channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.